Hi, my name's Glenn. This is Karen, my wife, and this is our bus. Hello, Glenn Denman here again today, working on the bus. It is was a whopping 16 degrees outside this morning. It's very, very cold outside, and now I think it's gotten up to about 21. So inside the bus here, though, with all this insulation I've got in here, I've got this little tiny heater sitting there running, and it's probably about 20 degrees different inside here, so it's pretty nice coming in and out of the cold in here, even though I still have a few holes going through the floor and stuff like that. So what I'm working on today is my Chinese diesel heater. I've got some other progress too that I'll talk about here in a little bit. But the Chinese diesel heater, I'm mounting it down inside the bay below the bathroom, and that'll be ducted in, of course, up to the upper level here. And so this shower, as I had mentioned before, is going to act, the hollow spaces with the shower is going to act as a plenum for heat and for return air. So the shower base itself is sitting on top of, I believe it's return air for the bus heat system, which I'm going to maintain while you're driving, the heat system while you're driving. So in other words, it looks just like this on this side, but it's directly across and it's under the back part of the shower. Matter of fact, that's what these wires are coming out of here. So what I've done is I've taken and spray foamed the hollow part of the sides of each side of the shower to separate the hollow portions of the rear part of the shower from the hollow portions of the front part of the shower. So the back side here is going to act as a return air, or a plenum for the bus heat return air. So it's going to be getting air on both sides, on both sides of it, as you can see that hole there. And then the Chinese diesel heater is going to duct in to the, right here next to the shower is going to be a pantry. And so the base of it, for where the toe kick is, will be 4 inches tall. And so that's going to be sitting here, and that space underneath I'm going to use for a plenum for the Chinese diesel heater. So the return air will come up, and I'm not sure where it's going to exit yet, but anyway, but it'll come up into this cavity, and then in a separate cavity will be the heat part of it that'll also come up. And the heat part, when it comes up, it'll pressurize the whole base here, not, of course, not the bus heat, that's going to be segregated off, but it'll pressurize this plenum here, and then it's going to travel through. I'm going to cut a hole here, and it's going to travel through here and work its way across the front hollow part of the shower and put heat into the bathroom and even into the bedroom. Not a lot, but just, you know, it's just good to try to get it distributed out. And then for the most part, the heat's going to come up and it's going to blow off here into the kitchen. So so that's the idea there. And then the controls for it will be somewhere up in here, up on the side of the pantry. So anyway, so I'll take you outside, just kind of show you what I've done outside here to get that thing mounted. And I didn't videotape the whole process because it was quite lengthy, and it would have been hours of videotaping for just dinking around with little tiny things. So I'm down here in my rear bay here, as you can see, and so inside this bay is where I'm going to be mounting this heater. This is the heater here. It's actually the aluminum cased model. I spent about $150 on it or so, and these are supposed to work pretty good. So I built this platform for it here, here in front of the rear junction box, And so basically it's going to sit lengthwise this way. The return air is going to come out on the far side. It's going to go up, it's going to come through here, up here, across, and then into the cavity above the floor here. So the cavity that's going to be underneath the pantry. And then the warm air will come out of this end of it. It'll come up here and across, and it'll also go into that same cavity, but of course that cavity will be split in half so the two don't mix. And so the exhaust here, the exhaust pipe is going to come out underneath the heater, and it's going to go out the side of the bus through the sidewall there, and I'm going to bend the pipe over, put the muffler on it outside, so that'll be right out here. And so basically the muffler will be coming out about here, and then I'm going to put a stainless steel shroud around it so that it just blows straight out the back. So I think that's a pretty good place to put it. There's not too many of these wall areas from these bays to the outside, so it really lends itself nice for that exhaust to come out. And anyway, so I'll show more on that installation as I go along. But what I ended up having to do here was build all this framework in here for this Chinese diesel heater to sit on. And anyway, and so it was quite the elaborate modification there. So I'll probably clean up some of this stuff here just so it doesn't look so funky. That paint and stuff will come off, and maybe paint the whole thing, I don't know, probably doesn't matter. But in the meantime also, I've installed my P-trap and my trap arm to my shower, and I have the vent going up through. I was able to just drill through this space here without removing the whole side of the flange. That way it still has the strength that it, you know, needs. Not that it needs a lot necessarily right there, but anyway. And then this will come out. This will either go down at a 45 and then to the tank that'll be back there, or it'll come over and then down like this, or wherever it needs to go. I'm going to wait on that until I get the actual tank in, and then I'll know exactly where I'm going to need to run that drain to. So anyway, so that's kind of the progress there. So I'll show another video on the completion of the heater. It's so cold out here. I'm not going to set this camera up outside and all that stuff. I'm just going to kind of videotape portions of it as I complete them. And so anyway, so we'll see how those videos go and how that work goes, and appreciate everybody watching. So what I ended up doing here was I ended up drilling I tried to just take my carbide hole saw and go through this stainless steel, and man, it just kept burning and burning and it wouldn't go anywhere. So I finally ended up drilling about 50 little tiny holes all the way around the perimeter. And then I ended up doing this one too, and then I was able to finally get it to go through. So that worked out pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is join the two holes together so I have a elongated hole, so that my pipe will take more of a gentle turn out here, and so the muffler will set out here just fine. And then I'm going to try to figure out a way to maybe flange this thing out or something, just so these sharp edges, of course I'll have to grind them down or something, but I just don't want a bunch of sharp edges there for the pipe to make contact with. Plus there's a support right here, but the idea here is the pipe's going to come through like this, and so it's going to gently just go right around this corner. So the idea is my vent will, this will hook up to the vent, this will come out through the hole. Something like that. What I'm going to do is train this to come through like so, and bend it just right so that it's not sprung loaded, or spring loaded I should say. And something like that. And the muffler, a lot of people don't realize these mufflers have a small drain on them. So that's why you can't install the muffler inside the bus anywhere. And plus you want that condensation that builds up in here to drain out. So so basically that'll fit on like so. Got the inside. So it'll something like that. I want to make it a little bit shorter though. I don't want it to stick out quite that far. So I'll play with that a little bit. Matter of fact, I'm going to probably take this back a little further here just to get a little gentler slope on it. And I've got a piece here that's going to mount right over this. Matter of fact, I'll grab it. So this piece here came off the inside of the bus. It was this is where an arm came out for the double folding doors, or not folding, but anyway, double doors that I had. This is for a light. So what I'm gonna do, a lot of this stuff I kind of saved just for this sort of thing. I'm gonna take and cut this off, probably about here. Cut that off, cut this off here, straighten this edge up here. So I'm just going to have this channel right here, and it has a hole on that side, so it's going to mount like this. It's going to go right over that whole thing basically, so it'll be to here. Then I'll put the butyl tape on there and screw this right to the bus, and you'll never know that this wasn't part of something original. So anyway, so that should work out pretty good, and I'll even have enough of this left over in case I end up doing some other stuff like that, maybe on the other side or something. So I'm going to monkey with this for a little bit. If I do that just right, this pipe may not even touch that hole. Anyway, something like that. So that's the idea. Matter of fact, I'm not going to take that back any further right now. I'm going to see if it'll just work the way it is. So, problem with cutting something like this stainless sheet metal here is, unless you have something to shear it, where it just cuts it off and doesn't involve any kind of heat, then it doesn't deform. So I don't have a shearing tool at all or anything like that. Sheet metal cutters, I'd probably destroy them trying to cut this stuff. So I'm going to try to use my Sawzall instead of the cutoff wheel. The cutoff wheel would certainly cut it off, but it would just leave a ripply edge. And so I'm just going to see how that goes. I've got this thing clamped down here. I'm going to try to cut that off with a Sawzall here. This is a carbide tip blade, and I've used it dozens of times now on stainless and stuff, and it's held up pretty good. It still looks almost as good as the day I bought it. Matter of fact, I even tore a house down using this thing. So anyway, so hopefully that'll work out. We'll see how that goes. Actually, that came out pretty well. I only need 12 inches, so I went ahead and just stopped at that point. So then I'll start to cut it across and then down this side. But it looks like my method here might work pretty well. Well, it's not too bad. It's a little rough. That blade is about shot, but I can grind it off and make it pretty straight. It's got a little ripple to it. I'll shave these edges off, round the corners a little bit. I already got one hole drilled. No, anyway, that was already there. But I think that's going to work pretty good to fit over that muffler. So anyway, see how it goes. Actually got that pretty square. The cut before was pretty crooked, so now it's squared up pretty good. And take some more of that edge off there. Maybe fix up these corners a little bit. Take the burr off these. This thing should work out pretty well, I think. There we have it. I'll probably take a file to it a little bit here just to kind of clean it up a little bit. It seems like no matter what you do, you shave one thing off in case burrs in another spot. But either way, I think it's going to work pretty darn good. That'll cover that muffler up just fine. Looked like it was intended to be that way. Okay, so I'm back out here at the bus, and I think this piece came out looking pretty fair for what it is and for what it came from. And so this will cover up the muffler, I think, just fine. So by the time I'm going to pull this back, I went ahead and elongated that hole. I'm going to pull that back and mount that muffler before I get too far with it here. And so that muffler will be mounted independent of this piece that I'm putting over it. And the only thing that I'm concerned about is the distance of the exhaust to the rubber cover around the axle. If it looks like it's going to get too hot, then I'll just create a diverter that'll come out at an angle, and it'll just cause the heat to dissipate away from it. So other than that, I think it came out pretty good, and I'll get this mounted on here and see how it looks as a final product. So okay, so another cold day working on the diesel heater. What an ironic thing to be trying to get my heater in while it's like 16 degrees outside. And I was out here all day yesterday and about frozen solid. And now I'm working on this thing again today, and working with metal and stuff like that's even worse. But anyway, I've got a lot of stuff done here. So one of the things I'm doing here, and probably with an MCI coach, this would only be a concern for MCI coaches anyway. So I plan on drilling a hole through here to get my return air duct to come off the back side of the heater here at the opposite end, go up and through the hole, across and up into the floor right about here. So I could run the duct out the back and around and bring it all up and have all this duct work everywhere, and add about 3 or 4 feet of having to do all that stuff. It's bad enough that I've got to run the heat up like this and across, and I was trying to keep this duct work in here as short as possible. But anyway, so I'm going to put a hole through here. But one of the things that problems that creates is this bracket here mounts about right here on this door, and the purpose of that is when the door opens, it snaps over this. As this bar comes up, it snaps over this thing, and it just gives it a spring-loaded kind of a tension lock. And then it has this chain. Anyway, I probably should have explained it before I took it out, but anyway, so you can lock the bay in the up position. And you know, the door stays up fine the way it is, and I suppose that's probably important if your cable breaks or something like that. But I want to keep the feature alive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remount this piece here. It had all these spacers as well. I'm going to remount that so that instead of being lined up about like that, it's going to be more about like that. So I'm going to bring it up in that direction, and the purpose for that is so that when the door closes, this thing swings up in here and it ends up about right here, not giving me enough room to run my duct through here. So it blocks it by about 1/2 inch or maybe 3/4 of an inch. So if I lower this, onto here, it's actually lowering, because when the duct door is down, it's actually going down. So when I lower that down to there, by the time this thing swings up, it'll clear that duct that'll be tight to the floor up above. So I think that's going to work good. And then it'll snap over this plastic friction piece here more in the middle instead of on the end anyway. So as you can see down here, this one here, it snaps over the end of it. So by the time it's remounted, it'll snap over more the middle of it on that side, and that'll work pretty good. So just to give you an idea what it looks like in the closed position is there it is there's its counterpart. So you can see where it doesn't give much room in here for that duct to go through on the opposite side there. So this piece will be lower, so when the door shuts, there'll be plenty of room there for that duct to go through there, and then up and through the floor on that side. So anyway, so that's what I'm working on. And And like I said, just having a good time out here. 16-degree weather. I know there's people that work in weather even colder than that, and I certainly did for years. Anyway, so we'll see how that comes out. Oh, another thing too is I went ahead and modified my my piece for the exhaust muffler cover here. And so what I did is I ended up putting a piece of metal in here, putting a hole in the end of it for the exhaust, and then I covered up this opening here. I just glued in a piece of stainless steel in there, and so now it's more closed off. And one thing about this heater, I also need to have combustion air. So I'm going to draw combustion air from the bay, and because I really don't think that these bays are completely airtight. And one of the things about combustion air is wherever it draws air to burn, it'll suck the air in from the outside eventually anyway. So what it does is as it combusts the air, as it tries to starve for air, then it'll draw it in from whatever gap that it can find it, and it will come in from the outside into the coach. So in this case here, it would come from the outside into the bay and hopefully minimize any of that cold air from going up into the inside of the bus. But really the most efficient way to do it is to actually run your combustion air to the outside, you know, so it's actually just pulling air from outside. A lot of people think, well, I'll just pull that warm air from the house into the thing, but it really doesn't create any more efficiency. It's more efficient if you can draw 100% of the air directly from the outside, and that way you're not sucking cold air through every crack into your coach. But in the bay here, I don't think I'm too worried about it. I think it'll get enough air under here. If it creates a combustion problem or something, I'll, you know, run it with the bay completely shut for long periods of time or whatever and try it out. And if it is a problem, then I'll figure out a way to directly get the combustion air from the outside somehow. So anyway, so it's a pretty interesting unit. I'm having fun installing it, and we'll see how the rest of that goes. So I've got my hole drilled, got my vent kind of started through there. That's the return air, not the heat. And so just so you can see, I don't know if you can see on the back side here how all this looks. So I've got the clamp on there. The duct goes up through the hole. Now, when you undo this clamp here, then that enables this top to come off for servicing. So it's a little tight in here, but it's not too awful bad. There's plenty of room in here to take the top off and get in here and do stuff with it. So now for those Chinese diesel heater fans out there, this flexible duct that I got from Lowe's, this duct, I've worked with this stuff for years actually, but when you expand this duct out, it actually gets larger on the inside and smaller on the outside. Okay, so same thing with this. Now I don't know how much this stuff expands out, and I'm not going to mess with it much. It's pretty flimsy stuff that you get with the heater. But once I expand this out, this is just a 3-inch duct. Once I expand that out, that gets large enough so I can actually fit that over the Chinese diesel heater duct. Then I've done an adapted from that, whatever size that is. It's like, anyway, it's in the millimeters. So that creates a nice adapter to go from that to this 3-inch. Then I can just use 3-inch duct and a 3-inch elbow and just all 3-inch standard stuff after that. So anyway, so that works out pretty good, and I'll show that once I have that installed. What I plan on doing is shoving that over that, which I've already had it on there once, shove it over that, and then I can squeeze this back down and mash it back down to where it actually grips onto this, and then I'll put some kind of HVAC type tape on it. So anyway, so I think that'll work, and then eventually I'll put some kind of insulation on it, maybe even just some bubble wrap or something like that, just to make it a little bit more hardy and a little bit more efficient. So again, we'll see how that goes, and I'll finish this install, and I think it's going to work out pretty good. So I was able to shove that in there about 2.5 inches, this duct into this duct, and then I put a couple of zip ties on it super tight. Man, that thing's not going anywhere, and it should be pretty airtight also. So I'll probably wrap it with some tape and stuff later. It's just a little bit too cold out right now for that sort of thing. And now I just have this nice 3-inch pretty heavy aluminum duct. That stuff that comes with it's really thin, and it works back in here where nobody's going to be bumping it and stuff. But I just like having this out here a little more hardy. So I thought I'd go ahead and show the ductwork before I finish wrapping it up, so you can see what I've got here. So basically I was able to wrap that with bubble wrap over the flexible duct like this. So I'll wrap this one too. So here, instead of starting up with the flex pipe that comes with the unit, which is some really cheap flimsy stuff, I went ahead and put two 3-inch 90s together, wrapped them with my 181B tape, which is true duct tape, for anybody that really wants to know. It's made for duct work actually. And so I wrapped that, or I've got 2 screws in there holding the elbows on. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring this up, bring it through the floor here, and before I do that though, I'm going to wrap it real nice, and that should work pretty good. I even got this here wrapped up on the other side here. If you can see that, it's not 100%. The very elbow I think is a little bit lacking, but I can still add some more to it. But the nice thing about this is I was able to wrap it right through this right through the hole where it penetrates the steel. So that worked out pretty good. And so between the tape and the zip ties, that came out pretty clean. So I'll wrap this one up and show the finished product. So here it is, pretty much all wrapped up. I'll probably put some spray foam around the penetration here for both pipes, and I've got it pretty much zip tied up, strapped up. On this end here, I'm going to wait on this. I'm going to see how hot this gets right here first before I do anything else with it. Okay, so for now I'm just going to finish up this video on the Chinese diesel heater install. There's a lot of things in play here, and so I can't really completely finish it just yet until quite a few other things happen first. So I'm not going to just save this footage for 3 months or whatever and then finally put it together later. I'm just going to finish this up for now, and it's kind of a rough install, I guess. And so basically what I've got here is this is going to be the space under the pantry, and so I'm going to build these 4-inch mouse maze in here to direct all the air where I want it to go. The fresh air, or the return air, is going to come out this end, and I'm going to make it so I can put a filter in there, so it'll go like this, like this, and like this. And then the warm air side that's blowing the heat will pressurize another cavity here that'll blow in under the shower, out the end, and then also out the toe kick of the pantry. So that's pretty much it for now. My son had gave me a one of these diesel tanks that comes out of a boat. So I'll be using this instead of the one that came with the unit, and this should work pretty good. all you have to do is just thread in a 3/8 inch pipe thread with a barb fitting on it, and that'll go down in the bay just fine. It's about 6 gallons, so that should last quite a while. Another thing I don't really have ready yet is any kind of a battery system or things like that. I need to put the wiring in for the thermostat and all that, and obviously that's not going to happen yet either. So a lot of this stuff's kind of in transition, but I wanted to at least show pretty much how I did that work there. Plus, it's like, again, today it's like 16 degrees outside, and so I'm not going to be doing any you know, sealing or foaming or caulking or any of that kind of stuff outside where that muffler and stuff is just yet, because I'm going to have to just wait until it warms up a little bit. So just too many things in transition. But at least for now, everybody can see, you know, where I put the Chinese diesel heater there in the final bay, and it worked out pretty good. So thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.